Now we're going to go to 10C, adopt a resolution authorizing the city manager to execute a contract with MIG Inc. for landscape architectural design services for the Earl-Glenview and Florida Avenue parks in an amount not to exceed $227,750.
And yes, Mr. Mayor, as Vice Mayor Medina regains the DS, will indicate that on this item, while it is somewhat related to the 324 Florida Park, one of the provisions in state conflicts laws says that once a policy decision has already been made, then decisions to implement that policy can, under some circumstances, be made by the recused council member, and that person can't participate. So that's the reason why Vice Mayor Medina has restored his position on the DS.
Thank you, Mark.
Complicated you make things.
You're on.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of the City Council.
Whoa.
Over the past several months, staff has worked with the firm of MIG Incorporated to complete the individual park master plans for the Earl-Glenview Park and Florida Avenue Park. The two master plans provide the conceptual design vision for the two parks. Development of these master plans included extensive neighborhood outreach and input from the Parks and Recreation Commission. The City Council approved the Earl-Glenview Park Master Plan at its meeting on September 27th and just approved the Park Master Plan for Florida Avenue Park a few minutes ago. Now, with the completion of the design vision for the two parks, architectural design can commence, including grading plans, planting plans and plant palette, landscape layout, materials plans, irrigation area plans, lighting and electrical plans, and equipment selections such as play equipment, benches, trash receptacles, and picnic tables. Once completed, these landscape architectural design drawings will be used to bid and construct the two parks. In September, a request for proposals, or RFP, for landscape architectural design services was distributed to 14 landscape architectural firms and was advertised on the city's website. The city received proposals from 3 design firms to design both parks. Each proposal was evaluated based on the firm's qualifications, project manager and team expertise, and demonstrated knowledge and success with similarly sized projects. The proposal fees among the 3 bidders were very close, with only a few $1,000s between the low and the high bid proposals. Based on the evaluation criteria, staff is recommending MIG Inc. or Incorporated be awarded the contract to provide architectural design services for both the Earl-Glenview and Florida Avenue parks, given their particular project familiarity and specific extensive expertise with neighborhood park design. MIG has over 34 years of park design experience and offers the unique ability to provide project continuity, having developed both the Earl-Glenview and Florida Avenue Park master plans. The Crestmore and Florida Avenue neighborhoods will continue to be engaged throughout the design phase. At the 60% and 90% design phase, a project update will be provided to the neighborhood and the Parks and Recreation Commission. At these meetings, the neighborhoods and commission will be asked for input on specific design elements and fixtures within the park. Design of the Earl-Glenview and Florida Avenue parks is scheduled for completion in early 2017, followed by construction of both parks, which will be bid in spring 2017. Each park will take approximately 6 months to construct. Funding for the design of the Earl-Glenview and Florida Avenue parks is allocated in the fiscal year 2016 to 2021 Capital Improvement Program budget, the 5-year budget, with the funding being in the 16-17 and 17-18 program years. The Earl-Glenview Park design and construction is funded through the Crestmore Trust Fund and the Florida Avenue Park through a combination of a $200,000 grant from the San Bruno Community Foundation and the General Fund Capital Reserve. I apologize, the staff report inadvertently did not include the costs associated with the development of the master plans. So the numbers I'm going to give you now put that in. The approved budget for the Florida Avenue Park design and construction is $775,000. The Florida Avenue Park plan estimates the total construction and design at $864,300. Again, $864,300. The staff report inadvertently had $841,751. The Earl-Glenview Park design and construction budget is $1,750,000. The cost to design and construct the park is $1,403,700. And inadvertently, again, the staff report had $1,367,250. Concern for pedestrian safety has been expressed by both the neighborhood and the Parks and Recreation Commission as it relates to the Earl-Glenview Park, and specifically because the eastern and western portions of the park are divided by Glenview Drive. If the City Council wished to consider focusing just on the Earl-Glenview Park 3 parcels on the east side of the park in light of these concerns that have been expressed about pedestrian safety, and not developing the west side of the park or 1701 Earl Avenue, the savings in design would be approximately $20,000 plus an additional approximately $350,000 for construction. Ideally, a decision on whether or not to proceed with the west side would occur this evening because, as I mentioned on the prior item, we're going to start design tomorrow. Crestmore and Florida Avenue neighborhoods will be continued to be engaged throughout the design process, as I mentioned, and they'll be invited to provide input at both the 60 and the 90% design phases. That essentially wraps up my report. Be happy to answer any questions you have.
Is there any of these that MIG designed parks locally? Also being a designer, I don't want both parks to look the same. And on plan they look the same, but so I was just curious if there's something that we can see. Do they have was there any research on their particular style that they have, or is all the same?
From the designs that I've seen that they've done, they're very responsive to the input from the neighborhood. And I can appreciate in the conceptual renditions, they look very similar, but as a result of the input that we've received from the neighborhoods, I'm confident that they'll be very different because they'll have different elements and different finishes and feels and uses, frankly.
Is there anything local that we can probably take a
I will
look?
get you
Okay.
that information.
Anyone else? Marty?
Through the chair. Do we have a preference on which one to start first, or they're going to start at the same time, or how was that going to work out?
They will start at exactly the same
They're
time.
both going to work on the same one?
Yes.
I'm concerned about the safety over at Glenview. I spent plenty of time when I was an inspector here in San Bruno, and I'm very aware of the speeding that occurs there. And I'd like to consider potentially limiting the design to just the east side. I think there's savings there, and how would the community feel, or the people that attended all these meetings of I don't want to short circuit their vision, but I'd be interested in hearing of how important having the other park, the West Park, is to them, and the amount of savings. Honestly, not only is it not going to be a park, but it probably would be developed into a house, and the revenue side there should be considered. So I don't know what flexibility we have, that they could start on the east side, and as we reach out to the community and see how strongly they feel about having both parks.
So I think you just touched on what I would recommend. I think we would need to revisit a conversation with the neighborhood, which could be scheduled within the next couple of weeks. We could start design on Florida. The council may remember that there are 2 play areas on the east side. Theoretically, one play area would include equipment for 2 to 5. The other play area would include equipment for the 5 to 12. One of the elements on the west side that was very important to the neighborhood was the basketball amenity. I'm not going to call it a court, I'm just going to call it an amenity for now. I think what we might hear from the neighborhood is that they would, if the west portion wasn't going to be built, they would want that sports court amenity brought over to the east side, thereby leaving one play area where we could find a piece of equipment, much like we're going to do at Florida, for 2 to 12.
Anyone else? Irene?
I'm a little astonished that this eliminating the West Park just kind of popped up. And the other meetings, nobody suggested eliminating the park. Is this just something that happened? I mean, I was just rereading all this. I didn't notice it in the staff report. I don't understand where it all came from and why it's not in here. Or I missed it.
The reason that it's shown in the report as an alternative, and the reason that it's shown that way is that there was discussion at the community meetings regarding the safety and the pedestrian crossing, and some amount of, there was a thoughtful design was developed that minimized the conflict, if you will, between, a family going to the park and then having some of their kids doing that and some on the other side. So
Right.
It's that issue was addressed in the discussion part, but it's an option. Given that this is a fairly, we're very fortunate and very pleased to be able to have put together a very substantial expansion of what previously existed in that location as there's no better definition of literally a pocket park that was there. You now have a full-on neighborhood park with a variety of different amenities. So it's just an option to consider if there is concern, as the Vice Mayor has expressed, regarding the safety of the pedestrian crossing and the conflict that might create with a park use.
Well, I'm going to chime in here. We have to have both parks. Both parks have to be there. And even if, and I can understand what you just explained, those conflicts. It's kind of late in the game, but maybe the east side or the west side becomes the reflection area that just becomes a park that you just sort of go and hang out at with no specific activities. Because I understand that you want to keep all the activities in one spot. Probably a smaller footprint. But, like I said, it's late in the game. I don't know how you adjust that,
Let me interject here.
Yeah.
So what did the neighbors want? What did they suggest that they wanted in all of these discussions that we had with the neighborhood? Did they want a west and an east?
In the best way that I could, when I presented the master plan to the council at the September 27th meeting, I reflected what the neighborhood had expressed with regard to their design vision, having both parcels available. They did not put the reflection area on the west side of the park. I'm sorry, there's a little bug. They put it on the east side. And the thought was that they were deliberate in doing that because they located it in a way that you could look down the canyon. So if there was an interest, I think we would definitely need another round of discussion with the neighborhood on how they would want amenities programmed, because the design vision that they had is incorporated in the master plan.
And that's my feeling. We've put so much time and effort into the people that are actually going to use this. I mean, if people are worried, Marty's worried about traffic or something, we put in some traffic calming measures, which I know they didn't want to do a lot of that, but maybe that takes care of the situation. But it's their park, it's their neighborhood, city park, but pretty much theirs. And I think it would be an insult, if you would, to even think about building a home on that particular lot. So I don't think that's going to happen. So my feeling is, and I'm just one, is that we go with what the neighbors wanted in some pretty serious and lengthy discussions. This is what come out of it. So that's my feeling. Irene?
I agree with you, and I also agree that you need to take care of the pedestrians regardless of if you have no parks there. I mean, we really need to relook at what people are so concerned about with, traffic calming measures. I don't quite understand. They don't want circles, they don't want bulb outs, they don't want, I don't know what else they don't want, but maybe there are things that they do want that would protect all the pedestrians at any time, or at least, slow down the traffic. Even on, I think it was Fleetwood, where we put the white lines on the road and we put the speeding, the solar signs that said your speed is this and that. And then there was several other things that we did on Crestmore Drive as well, on the south side of San Bruno Avenue. Those measures calm down the traffic. So maybe we should be looking at those kinds of things instead of taking away a piece of a park that we've been waiting so long to institute.
So any more discussion or action by the council?
Well, I'll introduce the resolution implementing the original master plan park design.
Councilmember O'Connell.
Aye.
Councilmember Rico Medina.
Aye.
Councilmember Ibarra. Vice Mayor Marty Medina.
Aye.
Mayor Ruane.
Aye. Okay.